Hi, everybody. I am Cassidy. I'm the director of Klamath Film, and you just watched Bugtussle. And with me today is the writer, actor, director of Bugtussle, the creative mind behind it, Derek. Derek, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for selecting Bugtussle.
Yeah, we're so excited to have it in our 11th annual film festival, and it's such a joy to get to chat with you. So yeah, let's just kind of dive into it. I'm so
Right.
curious, kind of just about your process of picking a theme just as big as wealth disparity in America and how that kind of transformed into this modern retelling of Mice and Men.
Okay, so we're going to get serious right out the gate.
Oh, I mean, we
No,
got to get
I'm
into
kidding.
it.
No, I'm
We
kidding.
got
I'm
to get
kidding. I'm
into it.
kidding. No, this is a very, very serious topic for me. Uh, so uh, I'm going to say that wealth disparity is in one of the top five biggest issues on the planet. And you can say that potentially wealth disparity is responsible for the other four. Um, it the, particularly in America, but it's all over the planet. I mean, this story could have taken place in Korea. It could have taken place in South Side Chicago. It could have taken place. It could have been two Hispanics in Bakersfield. It could have been two sisters in Australia. I mean, it's all over the planet. The problem is when we talk about wealth disparity and we talk about the systemic uh, um, problems that how each country has set up the class structure and how it's failed us miserably. And there's this quote called "Poverty is the mother of crime," which I almost used in the film, but I went with "There are no bad seeds; it's just bad dirt" instead.
Mm, mhm.
Um, but the way the system works and the way why I chose Bakersfield is because these are direct descendants of the Dust Bowl Okies. So when they left the Dust Bowl, they traveled west to California for a better life, similar to Grapes of Wrath, and they made it as far as Bakersfield,
Mhm.
Visalia, Oildale area. And that's where they ended up. And that's where the term Okie came from, is a very derogatory term. And that's why I used it once in the film. It calls
Right.
me an Okie. And it's a derogatory term towards people just looking for a better life that were pushed out of their part of the country where they couldn't farm and they could not make a living for their families. And then that part of California, which is often referred as to the armpit of California, people forget, hey, there are people who live there. And I was born in a small town in Oklahoma and went to high school there. And I know exactly what it's like to come from nothing. I was very, very fortunate to end up with a graduate degree and doctorate degree and from the actor studio to get to um, pursue my dreams. But it was very, very lucky and just a strange twist of fate on that. But wealth disparity has to be addressed, and it goes beyond just universal health care. It goes beyond mental health and addiction, which we all address in the film. It's so problematic that I wake up every morning and I literally seek out people that may need some help. And when I tell stories, I almost always address pretty heavy themes, but I kind of make sure that I'm not heavy-handed with it. I want to
Mhm.
make sure there's some comedy in there that may prevent the sentimentality
Mhm.
of the story. But I want to make sure it still packs a little bit of a punch that, hey, the message is clear here. I'm not preaching to you,
Right.
but these are two criminals, murderers. But when you watch the film, you go, wow, they got a story, and I didn't would have never dreamt of even looking at these guys on the street. And
Mhm.
now I'm with them for 20 minutes in a barn getting to know who they are. And hopefully, even if you don't like them, maybe understand them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my little thing on wealth disparity. I think Jeff Bezos should actually be responsible for free healthcare in most of the country.
There you go. Heard it here first from Derek in our interview. I like it. Yeah, and I mean, how do you touched on so much in that answer, and I love it, and I'm so excited to, talk about all of that. But um, kind of going back to maybe your original idea of wealth disparity and then how it kind of transformed into this of mice and men theme, what are some similarities or differences between these two eras that maybe you pulled from in the film or from the book originally that what are just kind of comparing between these two works of art?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for asking. And I think that originally, when I was writing it, I kind of pulled from an old 1950s play called The Dumbwaiter, where these two hitmen are actually trapped in this basement, waiting for their kill instructions. And I was writing a story. I'm like, oh, it'd be great. These two guys are trapped because in the play, The Dumbwaiter, you start revealing who these people really are when they're trapped in this basement waiting these kill instructions. Now, mind you, this is 1950s, and it
Right.
sounds like Tarantino.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
so I took the idea, and then as I was writing it, I started. I can't help but go to theme. I don't want to make it my I want to tell a story first,
Mhm.
but I can't help but go there. Even with my last film, Tutu Grande, I had to make it with heavy themed story, but not heavy handed
Mhm.
and not sentimental and not preachy with a lot of score that is manipulative. And I wanted to steer clear of that. But I started seeing the similarities of the relationship between George and Lenny. I'm like, oh, you know what? This is exactly about wealth disparity. I do get to tell their story, and I'm going to go back and read the novella, and which I did. And there's specific lines in the script that are drawn from the book.
Wow. Hmm.
There's about four that are
Yep.
directly from the book.
Wow.
Now, some are closely related to, like, tell me about the money instead of, tell me about the rabbits. I mean, it's there.
Right.
You never give up, do you? Nope. No, it's there. But what really fascinated me is I don't think when I lived in LA for 15 years, maybe not quite that long, but close enough. And I had some property up in Pine Mountain Club, which is the top of the Grapevine
All right.
over the Tahoe Pass. So we would often go down to Bakersfield because I really love the culture. It's where
Oh,
Buck Owens is from, and got Buck Owens Crystal Palace, and you got Merle Haggard, and they're Okies, and I knew them. I know those people, much related to them, much more than the industry in LA. So, but what you found out around Bakersfield, Oildale area, that when the Dust Bowl occurred and they ended up in the area, there was nothing there. It's desert.
hmm.
It's desert. If you've ever been to Barstow or Bakersfield, it's just desert. Now, the fact that they found a way to build a community that is actually culturally rich.
Mm.
They even have what they call the Bakersfield Sound, which is what Buck Owens and Merle Haggard, Dwight Yoakam do. Uh, but these people, what I discovered that is they are the same people and they are descendants, direct descendants from the Dust Bowl. And then there's a great, beautiful mix of the Hispanic culture there that I almost cast Crow as a Latino actor and then calling it tamale pie, which is what happens when you get the Okie and a Latino together to make a dish.
Wow.
And I still may do that in a feature. I'm looking at the Latino in the feature, and going with tamale pie, but that's down the road. But what I discovered is, during Grapes of Wrath and, even of Mice and Men, if you look at a Mice and Men, Lenny was a simpleton. He was of limited capacity. He was not a particularly dangerous person. He was just limited.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to tell that what we saw when Steinbeck revealed to us in Grapes of Wrath and of Mice and Men and Tortilla Flats is these people who are all just looking for a better life. But generations later, Lenny is much more dangerous.
Wow.
The people are much more dangerous. The crime rate in Oildale alone per capita is one of the most dangerous in the country. And that's where Merle Haggard was from, and that's why he ended up in prison before he became a famous country singer.
Wow.
And he was actually in San Quentin, and Johnny Cash came to play a concert in San Quentin. And Merle Haggard saw that concert and says, I know what I want to do when I get out. So that's why I use Merle Haggard reference often in the script. I use Buck Owens as a reference in the script. I really wanted to kind of capture, if I spent more than a day shooting the damn thing, because we were in the pandemic, SAG had a lot of restrictions on us.
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, 22 pages in a day is the dumbest thing I've ever even thought of. The crew thought you're crazy. I'm like, yes, I am, but by God, I'm in this barn and I'm only going to do it for a day because there's enough dust in here to kill all of us. We're still cleaning dust out of the equipment. Our lungs, our noses were just, oh my God, it was so hot.
Ooh.
But we were tackling this in that barn. I wanted to probably reveal why I chose a barn in the middle of an orange grove in Bakersfield, because if you've ever seen it, I mean, they're everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And we were going to go down there and shoot the exteriors in Bakersfield, but of course they weren't in harvest that time, so it would have been irrelevant. The barn was in Oregon. So the would have been really nice to like have a helicopter POV looking down as they're running, and they're literally hidden because the groves actually hide you and shadow you as you're running through.
Yeah.
And that barn is actually hidden within the trees. So it's the perfect hiding place that they had set up prior to the bank robbery.
Absolutely.
That would have been great. But I didn't do it. I'm like, okay, I can still tell the story without it. I don't have any oranges anyway. It'd be kind of cool to have, the beginning where you hear the intro music, and then you hear the leaves from the trees bristling, and you see the POV overhead. But I also think that's way overdone. The intros, the first thing you see is, oh, there's a drone shot showing me exactly where the fuck we are. Great. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
A different establishing shot, and it was perfect with the and
it's immediate conflict. They're running. There's helicopter sounds. They're looking up. We already know it's trouble.
Done. Exactly. Wild West.
And we shot it in a orchard outside of Eugene. And we took off running, and camera sat in the back of my Jeep and followed us as we were running towards the Jeep. And they got aside from us and just followed us as we were running. And I'm like, done, let's go. Let's get out.
That's awesome. Yep. All right. We got no time. We're done.
Go.
Next shot.
We're born. This is going to take a while.
So what was that like? I mean, acting, directing, writing, that's a lot of different hats, a lot of different cowboy hats to be wearing all in one day. So how did you kind of balance those different elements and really making sure you got what you needed to get in this limited time frame with all these multiple roles that you have going on?
Well, so I'll just elaborate a little bit on that. So the writing was done. So by default, I'm the writer. Everybody has the script. That's over with. Great. Over. If anything happens within the shooting that may be improvised, I just let it happen. We use it or we don't. We don't. I'm not the guy who's like, you're not changing anything in my script. I'm like, no, I don't believe that actually. I believe, you know what? If it happens in the moment, that's where the magic is. And there's lots of things that were actually improvised in the script, and we kept them. And it's particularly the portion where I was peeing and it just wouldn't stop. Uh, I really didn't. He looked at me like, "Are you still pissing?" I'm like, "What?" That's when I finally turned around. It stopped. So the writing's gone. So then the crew has the script. So John Meese, who plays Crow, we actually zoomed just like this and rehearsed a bunch. And we discussed a lot about the script and my ideas of where I'm going with this. Then I was in LA in his garage, and I kind of knew exactly how the barn was going to be set up, very similar to a play. So I gave him a lot of direction, and we kind of knew what beats and marks that we had to absolutely hit in the story, and the other times we're just going to be bouncing off each other. So once John and I developed that part, which was a crucial element, because if we had not rehearsed, there would have been no way in hell we could have done that in a day.
Sure.
No way. I mean, that's just unheard of. That would have been a 3-4 day shoot, easy. That's 22 pages. If we had just shown up on set and go, "Hey, man, how are you? Nice to meet you. Let's have fun today." Yeah, that's not going to happen. So that's where a ton of my direction happened, was prior to arriving on set. Then we had to cast the farmer, who was local. And I basically gave him one direction. He wasn't really an actor, which was good because I knew he wasn't going to do too much.
Right.
I'm like, I just want a guy. I said, "Look, you're terrified." I said, "You're not terrified, but you're a little scared. But been here, done that."
Yeah.
Okay. 1 or 2 takes, and the guy was perfect.
Nice.
I'm like, it was so I didn't have to deal with much of the acting once we were on set. And that's the great thing about doing a piece like this. One location. I've got the actors that know what they're doing. John and I know we're going to bounce off one another. So directing actors, and I may have made a few notes, "Hey, John, let's do this," or have to go to camera and say, "You know what, we got to get this shot overhead." Some of the shots were already written in the script, so they knew exactly what shot to get. It's like, we got the wide shot, let's just stay there. And fortunately, with Taylor Morton, we have a shorthand. So he's the DP. So we've already worked together. So he understands me, I understand him. That the good thing is, since I'm in front of the camera, I'm going to put a lot of trust in Walter and Taylor that they're, with 2 cameras, are going to get enough coverage, inserts, to make this particular scene and moment work. And if you don't, just tell me and we'll do it again.
Nice.
And so I'm putting a bunch on their plate to say, "Hey, we're just going to go just like in a piece of theater. All you got to do is capture it." And if you don't feel like you did, because I don't have time to jump and look at every playback, guys. So we're just going to fly. And if you think in three takes, we're going to do the scene. And if you want to capture some inserts, let's do that. Then let's move on. Which the biggest problem with that was, one is we had enough footage for a feature. We didn't have a story for a feature.
Right.
but we had so much footage
So,
with not one slate. So Taylor has to go through all of this footage and edit and try to put it all together and then deal with me like, no, dude, you can't cut that out. Put it
no.
back in. He's like, okay, and put this. Do we have this? Do we have this? And I got all the footage, of course.
Hmm.
And I'm going through all the footage, going, okay, you can't use that, can't use that, can't use that, can't. Oh yeah, yeah, use that one. That's one shot. So I don't think I would typically take on that role outside of a pandemic.
Wow.
I think it's too much.
Hmm.
Now, I've directed hundreds of pieces of theater, black box theater. I own my own theater here in Bend, Volcanic Theater Pub. I've done plays since undergrad where I'm in it and directing it. That
Hmm.
is not an uncommon thing. That's actually with minimal cast, minimal set, and maybe one, maybe two acts. It's very easy with two or three characters to be on stage and direct at the same time. It's very common. So it's similar approach to this project, a similar approach to the last project. The last one was real time. The
Yeah.
last one was 12 minutes, real time, just two guys across from one another. And have you seen Two de Grande?
No, I haven't.
Go back and watch it. It was at Klamath in 2019, I think,
Noted.
prior pandemic.
Okay. Awesome.
But so, in short or in very long, um, once the writing is done, it's done. Once we rehearsed, we knew what we were doing. Once we're on set, then it's putting a lot of faith because honestly, you're only as good as the people around you.
Hmm.
This is not a damn vanity project. It was just because we're in the middle of a pandemic. I wasn't even going to be in it. Meese actually read the script and goes, I want to play Crow." I'm like, okay, whatever. And then came down to shoot it. I'm like, okay, you want to do Crow? Yeah. I'm like, he goes, you should do Coyote. I'm like, no, 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 no. I got to direct it. He goes, no, dude, it'd be perfect. It's a perfect contrast to Tutu. I'm like, okay, sure, why not? So I
Awesome.
developed this character, and that's why I think it worked, is because we only had six of us on set, three cast, three crew
Wow.
in a barn, a very hot day in the summer.
Sure.
And it's putting the faith in the six people and saying we all have one vision today.
Hmm.
We got to tell the story. Story's king. That's all I care about. And jumping in it. Then
Wow.
part of the other question of that is when you're an actor professionally outside of the theater with TV and film, you rarely get the opportunity to do projects like this. I'm kind of a Sam Rockwell type. That's where I was kind of pigeonholed early on.
Mm.
There's something a little goofy about me, yet there's something a little dangerous, going on. But it's kind of like the redneck version of Tim Roth. But they never really knew what to do with me. But you never really get to use your chops. And Rockwell was talking about doing three billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri with Martin McDonough, who uh, was a fantastic, brilliant playwright before he started making film. And he was talking about that you don't, unless you're working with Martin, you don't get to ever use your chops in film. Not
Mm.
really. But when he does Seven Psychopaths or Three Billboards, I mean, the dude is a hell of an actor when he's given the opportunity. Christopher Walken, the same way. Martin McDonough, Colin Farrell, same way. I'm like, wow, you're. So when you get the opportunity to use your chops in a piece of film that's going to be around forever, you get the opportunity to really dive into a character and just say, okay, we're going to have fun today. And not that means that because coming from the actor studio, we do take it very seriously. I do not trivialize anything about the acting craft. I take it very seriously. It is very serious work to me, but a lot of it is play. A lot
Hmm.
of it is fun. And even though if some of the circumstances are not necessarily pleasant, and you do have to experience them, it's so rewarding and so exhilarating once you're done, because it's like in the theater when you're on the stage for 2.5 hours and you're just drilling it, and you're leaving your soul butter on the stage. You're in the green room just depleted, going, I've never felt so peaceful in my life. It's kind of like that in Bugtussle when we got the final take towards the end of the film, which is, people find it very moving towards the end. Um, and me going there, I did it one take, and and we nailed it.
Wow.
And it was the scene. Everybody's seen it at this point, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the scene where I started calling for my mommy was one take. We killed it.
Wow.
And but Walter, one of the cameras, go, can we do that again? I'm like, oh, bitch. Okay. So I took my second, and how I work, my process works. I went, okay. During the that summer, I had to put my dog down.
Mm.
So I immediately went there again with my dog. I said, okay, you guys ready?
Oh.
And went right there again. And thank God, because all the footage that is on me during the Disneyland scene was that second take.
Wow.
So, and that was it. Then we got to figure out, okay, how we're going to get up above and shoot down, because it's a barn,
Yep.
got a roof. So we had to get creative on that. So acting in these pieces, writing it is always comes from the actor.
Mm-hmm.
I have 5 rules. Every story. One person wants one thing. Crow wants a better life. That's your story. That one person has obstacles, internal and external. His biggest external obstacle is me. I'm not letting you have a better life because I fuck everything up.
Wow.
But the obstacles have got to be high stakes.
Mm-hmm.
And they are high stakes, because if they don't get out of here, they are going to prison or they're going to die. They don't know it's high stuff. So, and then you have to have the action of the characters, which means what are they doing to each other in order to solve these problems? That reveals character and who they are. So
Wow.
how he's dealing with me and how I'm dealing with him, how I deal with the farmer, is so revealing of exactly who we are. And the last thing is you commit. You got to mean it. Personalize it and mean it. The story's got to mean something to you. So one person wants one thing. What's in their way? How do they get it? What's at stake? And by God, mean it.
Wow.
When you do 5 of those things, you have a story. If you leave out one of them, you don't have a story. You leave out 2 of them, you really don't have a story. But if you leave out the first one person wants one thing, you've already lost a plot. That's my rules.
Wow. Derek Sitter's rules. You heard him here first. That is really awesome. And I'm sure so many people are going to be excited to hear that, both on acting and creative side and filmmaking. So thank you so much for sharing those with us.
Of course.
Today.
It's like any cop show, right?
There you go.
There's a cop. Here's a murder. Find the perp. Story. One
Done.
person wants one thing. What's in his way? The Joker, and he's fucking nuts. Right?
Absolutely.
Every great story has it.
Yep. So
I'm often shocked how many people forget that one thing.
totally.
What is it? Frodo, get the ring to Mordor. Why? Because you'll die. And so will everybody else.
Everything you love, gone. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's my rule.
Awesome, Derek. Well, we absolutely loved Bugtussle. We're so excited to have it in our film festival this year. So thank you so much for submitting, being part of the Klamath Film family. We super appreciate it. And thanks so much for chatting with us today and sharing.
Of course. And
wonderful.
You're an absolute sweetheart.
Oh, stop.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. Awesome.
You
Well,
let me talk, and you listened, and I really appreciate that, and you are a absolute pleasure to meet.
absolutely. You too, Derek. Well, thank you so much. And be sure to rewatch Bug Tussle and share it for anyone watching the interview today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. And